The Durango area is a real hunter's haven in the fall. And while most people think of the fall months in terms of big game, it's also a great time to fish in our many nearby lakes. A little earlier this year, we got together with the two guys who run Duranglers to share some tips on stream fishing. This time out, we'll hear what they have to say about fishing the local mountain lakes. We arrived to find Tom Knopick and John Flick gearing up for a little cold water casting. After rigging up, they took their new fishing tubes down to the water's edge. Cold as the water was, the Duranglers stayed warm and dry. These tubes they're using cost anywhere from $100 to $150, and they allow you to get right out there to fish the best spots. We took our gear and paddled out to meet them.
This is a lot of fun. I think just for a short time, if a guy's got a tube, he can come up and hop in some of these little lakes around here. We've got so many of them. Oh! And have a lot of fun. A lot more access than walking the shores, that's for sure.
We had come to Little Molas Lake, a beautiful spot about 30 miles north of Durango. While a few others looked on and casted from the shore, Tom and John were catching far more fish near the center of the lake. The tubes they're using are a lot quieter than regular boats, and they get around pretty well.
Trolling is very effective. A lot of times, like what we were doing out there, you can get along a shelf like a moss bed, and then where it drops off into deeper water, and you can just toss your fly in there and troll along. A lot of these fish will be grouped up. You catch one, and you can find the fish by trolling, and then once you catch one, you just kind of work that area. Catch one.
The biggest difference in stream and lake fishing comes down to fly selection.
It's deep out here.
Real deep out here.
Easier to fish wet flies. Even though they're rising, you can throw a little wet fly without weight right under the surface, and they'll hit it. If you're not rising, then your guy needs to go with like a lead cord line or some weight on his leader to get his fly down towards the bottom where the fish are cruising. And then just again, we fish like little soft tackle flies. In other words, flies that have action in them, and just retrieve them real slow or at different speeds. Little rainbow there.
So there you have it. Soft tackle, a long leader, some warm waterproof clothing, and a fishing tube are the hot ticket for getting your limit in the lakes this season.
John! Woo!
Got a tandem.
Tandem!
I love it.
Inside Durango TV caught up with two of this area's best fishing outfitters recently, and we spent some time learning how to get the most action out of our nearby rivers. John Flick and Tom Knopick make a living tying flies and showing folks where and how to fish. It's a tough life, but somebody's got to do it. Anyway, here at Duranglers, they can get you whatever's needed to fish this area. They met us at the Edgemont Ranch and waded out into the Florida River to find out what the fish were feeding on that day. So they pulled out a screen instead of their fishing rods. Tom says most folks could catch a lot more fish if they'd look a little harder at their environment.
Observation is probably the most important thing. Look around, see if you see a lot of ants or grasshoppers, or maybe a moth or something that the fish might be seeing on a regular basis. And then you would go to a selection of flies, and maybe you saw a whole bunch of little green worms in your observation. That might be a good place to start.
Next, they look at what's in the water and begin matching flies to what they collected on the screen. Today, they elect to go for wet flies rather than dry flies. John tells us why.
Aquatic insects that we're imitating, both dry and wet, live 95% of their life in the water. So by imitating their stages in the water, that's what the trout are feeding on 95% of the time, we're apt to catch more fish, which we do. Although you still can dry fly fish, and it still seems to be some of the funnest because you actually see the trout come up and take the fly.
So, wet flies chosen, Tom and John take to the river, but they don't just walk in and start casting.
Probably the first thing that people do wrong is when they come up to a nice pool or a nice riffle or run is walk right in and start casting to the far side. You know, that might be the best spot in the river is on the far side, but there's a good chance if you stand off on the bank and start casting into the pool and systematically working through it that you'll probably end up catching more fish. There's probably fish right where you intend to position yourself.
Most of the food, and therefore most of the fish in this section of the river, could be found around the riffles and larger rocks, but there were also some protective pools in the shade of overhanging brush. Even though it had rained recently and the water was a bit off color, the fish were biting.
You gotta hit that woolly worm.
The Florida is a good fishing river, but it's by no means the only one you should try.
The very best, I'd say, taking a few out of all those, is the Piedra, the Los Pinos, and the Florida. The latter two both have a lot of private land on them where they have their best stretches, so you have to know somebody. Their upper reaches above the lakes like Lemon and Vallecito are also very good fishing later on in the summer. Beginning now through September is the best time to fish.
But no matter where you fish, they don't normally bite all the time. But if you know that there are fish where you're casting and they aren't hitting on your fly, Tom and John say to waste no more than 10 or 15 minutes before changing it.
Well, the woolly worm doesn't seem to be that productive. There's not a lot of insects coming off the water, so I'm going to go ahead and try another attractor fly. This here is an oversized renegade with a brown hackle on both ends and peacock pearl in the middle. Fish it about the same. Get it down towards the bottom, let it roll around between the boulders.
A few minutes later, Tom got a strike and played his catch in carefully, making sure to keep it away from the rocks and obstructions that could help the fish get away. Tom's switch to a brown hackle paid off, but he could have gone to any number of different flies he'd eventually try this day. So which ones, when all things are taken into account, work best in our rivers and streams?
Around here for wets, you've got the gold-ribbed hare's ear for a nymph, a woolly worm for a wet fly, and the bucktail streamer for a streamer fly. A wet-dry combo is either the renegade or the western coachman. You can fish those both wet and dry. For dry flies, probably the four major ones used around here are these four right here: the elk-winged caddis, the irresistible, the Rio Grande king, and the humpy. This is also known as a goofus bug. Those flies are just fabulous dry flies.
Both John and Tom have given us a few pointers on special areas and methods for fly fishing. But for the real secrets, you should talk with these guys about guide service or lessons. No doubt about it, you can always learn something new about fishing. It's a great sport that continues to challenge young and old, beginner and expert. And Durango is a great place to do it.